Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Welcome back, my friend, to Web Accessibility for All. I am your host, Ariel, and today we are doing something different. In fact, this episode is not about web accessibility. It's about people, and it will be really special. You probably seen someone like me before, a blind person with a white cane, or maybe someone who has trouble moving and uses a wheelchair, crutches, or a walker, or even someone who's deaf, maybe wearing hearing aids or using their hands to sign. Well, today we won't talk about those disabilities. I mean, those disabilities that are visible at first glance. We are going to talk about invisible disabilities and the unique challenges people face when they don't fit into the world's idea of normal. Now, before we dive in, I want you to meet a few people who are just trying to find their place in a world that wasn't designed for them.
Hey, I'm James. I'm 35, and I work as a software engineer. I love coding. It's like solving puzzles all day long.
Hi, hello, Sophia here. I'm 28, and I'm a graphic designer. Visual art has been my passion since I was a kid. There's just something about, translating ideas into images that I've always loved.
Hello, I'm Marcus. I'm 62 years old, and I'm a lawyer. I've always loved the way words can be used to defend, to persuade. It's an art form in its own way. When I'm not in the courtroom, I like to read biographies, mostly.
I'm Emily. I'm 42. And I'm a chef. Well, cooking is my whole world, you know. There's nothing better than creating something delicious, out of simple ingredients. Absolutely.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I'm 38, and I teach high school science. I'm a big believer in making learning fun. There's no reason school has to be boring, right?
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm 49, and I work as a freelance writer. I've always had a love for words. Stories have a way of reaching deep into people's hearts. When I'm not writing, I'm usually painting. It's something I do just for me. My own little creative outlet.
So there they are, 6 people, each with their own passions, their own lives, their own ways of finding joy. But if you are listening closely, you might have noticed that none of them mentioned something important. Now let's hear the parts that they didn't tell you right away.
So, here's the thing. I've got ADHD. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Always have. It's like my mind never stops. I'm great with ideas. I can come up with solutions that others can't. But focusing? Sitting still? That's a different story. It's tough, the ideas are there. But I've been called lazy. Because I struggle to stay on track. No one sees how hard I'm working just to keep up.
I didn't mention it earlier, but I live with chronic pain. Every day it's there. Some days, just sitting at my desk feels like a battle. But no one sees that. They just see the work I get done. Or the work I don't get done when it's too much to handle. They think I'm fine because I look fine. But what they don't know is that I spend half my energy just pushing through the pain.
I have social anxiety. Most people wouldn't guess it. I mean, I'm a lawyer, right? I'm supposed to be confident, bold, loud even. But outside the courtroom, talking to people, especially in big groups, it feels like my mind locks up. I'm terrified of saying the wrong thing, of people seeing through the mask I wear every day.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have dyslexia. Reading is hard for me. Recipes, they can be a nightmare. I have to work twice as hard to make sure I don't miss anything. People think I'm careless when I make mistakes, but they don't know how much effort goes into just keeping up.
I didn't mention this earlier, but I have bipolar disorder. Some days I'm unstoppable, full of energy, full of ideas. My students love those days. But then there are the days when, well, just getting out of bed feels like, say, climbing a mountain. I hide it from the other teachers. I don't want them to think I'm unreliable. But the truth is, I'm always fighting to stay balanced.
I have PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't want to say it earlier, but it's part of who I am. Certain sounds, certain places, they bring back things I'd rather forget. Writing is my escape, but there are days when I can't focus. Deadlines get missed. People think I'm unreliable. But they don't know what it's like to fight against your own mind. I love writing, but sometimes, it's hard.
And there you have it. 6 individuals, each with their own passions, their own invisible struggles, their own invisible disabilities. And it's not something they wear on the outside, but it's there every day, shaping their lives. None of them said it outright at first. That's the thing with invisible disabilities. They're easy to hide, but they weigh heavy on the people who carry them. Since these conditions are not obvious to others, people dealing with them often face different challenges. There's less awareness and sometimes even skepticism. Another big issue is stigma. People with invisible conditions often hesitate to disclose them, especially at work, because they fear being judged or treated differently. But there is something else we need to talk about. How much easier could it have been for them if the world had been more understanding? How often do we teach our children at school not just about math and science, but about people, about the reality that not all disabilities are visible? Just think about it. Do schools educate young people on how to interact with someone who has a disability? Do we teach them to be open-minded, to understand that not everyone moves through the world the same way? Sadly, the answer is often no. Instead, we raise generations of kids who don't know how to approach difference, who may fear what they don't understand, and who might even contribute to the isolation of someone who already feels out of place. Even though things are improving, society still tends to view visible disabilities as more legitimate than invisible ones. So people with invisible disabilities often have to deal with a lack of belief on their condition, fewer accommodations, and social stigma. But I think I truly think from the bottom of my heart that it's never too late to change that. Let's go back to our 6 people. It's time to hear how these challenges have shaped their paths. James, turning ADHD into a superpower.
I'll be honest, having ADHD has never been easy. But over time, I stopped fighting against it and started working with it. I realized that my constant stream of ideas was a strength, not a flaw. I found ways to break my tasks into smaller chunks. And with the right team, I thrive. I even started mentoring junior developers, helping them find their own paths when traditional methods don't work. Now, I'm not just a code, I'm a leader. Because I realized it's not about doing things the way everyone else does them, it's about finding my way.
Sophia, beauty despite the pain.
Chronic pain is part of my life, but it doesn't own me. Yes, some days are harder than others, but I've learned how to manage. Flexible work hours have been a game changer. I advocated for myself at my job, explaining my needs, and now I can work from home when it's too much. I still create, still design, and still pour my soul into my art.
Marcus, a quiet force in the courtroom.
Social anxiety doesn't define my ability to be a lawyer. In fact, it's made me a better one. I realize that preparation is my best defense. I work hard to know every detail of a case, so when I step into that courtroom, my anxiety doesn't stand a chance. And because I've struggled with my own fears, I've developed a deep empathy for my clients. It's still hard. But now I know that my anxiety doesn't have to hold me back.
Emily, cooking beyond dyslexia.
My dyslexia used to feel like this huge barrier between me and my career. But I've learned to adapt. I don't let reading hold me back. I memorize recipes, use visual cues, and rely on my senses. I've developed my own methods to work around my challenges. And in the kitchen, I'm not just following instructions. I'm creating. My dyslexia gave me the gift of thinking outside the box. And that's what makes my food special. I've even started teaching cooking classes to others who learn differently. I found a way to turn my challenge into something that makes me better, not weaker.
Daniel, balancing life with bipolar disorder.
Living with bipolar disorder means constant balance. Some days are easier than others, but teaching has been my lifeline. I've built strong relationships with my students, and I'm open about mental health with them. I want them to understand that it's okay to struggle, that everyone's fighting something. My condition makes me more aware of the emotional states of my students, and I've learned how to be a better teacher by recognizing when they are struggling too.
Lily, riding her way through PTSD.
PTSD has been a dark cloud over my life. But writing has been my light. Putting words on paper helps me process, helps me heal. And over time, I've found that my most personal stories, the ones that are hardest to write, are the ones that connect with readers the most. I've started a blog, sharing my journey with mental health and trauma. And you know what? People listen. They reach out, and I know I'm helping others just by being open. My PTSD doesn't define me. It's just part of my story. And now, my story helps others.
As you can see, these invisible disabilities are not barriers to success. Jane is thriving as a coder and a leader. Sophia creates breathtaking art. Marcus stands tall in the courtroom. Emily is cooking up more than just meals. Daniel is shaping the minds of the next generations. And Lily's work is touching hearts. If we taught empathy and understanding in our schools, in our jobs, in our society, how many more Jamies, Sophias, Lilies would have had an easier journey? How many could have thrived earlier with the support they needed? We can educate ourselves, our children, our communities. We can learn to embrace uniqueness, to value differences, to reach out to those who may be struggling invisibly. And when we do, the world becomes a place where everyone can contribute their own special light. That is the power of uniqueness in a conformist world. Thank you for joining me today. This has been Web Accessibility for All, and I hope you leave this episode feeling inspired to see the invisible and to value the difference in everyone you meet. See you next. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.